My story began when my CEO grandmother added an unbelievable spice to soup, igniting love. I will never forget that day, the wild scent swirling around her kitchen, tickling my nostrils. The air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced as I stared at the bubbling pot, feeling drawn to it like a moth to a flame. The sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on Grandma's hands as they stirred. Her fingers danced with age and wisdom. Each sprinkle of that mysterious spice sent a shiver down my spine. What was it? Some secret she had hidden for years. I watched her face, intrigued and anxious, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Grandma was magic, you see. The kind of woman who could run a Fortune 500 company and still make the best tomato soup. She had a way of turning simple meals into legendary feasts, each taste a story, a memory shared. But this soup felt different. It had a pulse, a rhythm. I could almost hear it singing. The kitchen was my sanctuary. The sounds of clattering dishes and the bubbling broth were like a comforting melody. But that day, something shattered the harmony. A knock on the door. My heart dropped into my stomach. The urgency in the sound was palpable, a foreboding drumbeat. I froze, holding my breath. Grandma turned, her brow furrowing. Who could it be? No one visited without a reason. She hesitated, and in that split second, I felt a flood of unease. The door creaked open with an eerie groan. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in shadows. I couldn't see their face, but the energy shifted. Cold pricked my skin. My hands trembled against the countertop. Grandma's confident demeanor faltered, her smile fading into a thin line. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice edged with tension. Time stretched, thickening the air. The stranger stepped forward, revealing a flash of something: anger, despair. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat swelling. I glanced at Grandma. Her eyes widened, a storm brewing behind them. "What do you want?" she demanded, and I clutched the edge of the counter, every muscle coiled in fear. The soup simmered behind us, a bubbling oblivion, oblivious to the chaos about to unfold. With a heavy pause, the stranger spoke, their voice slicing through the silence. "You owe me." My heart raced. What did they mean? My senses heightened. The aroma of the soup mixed with tension, making it hard to breathe. Grandma's face paled, and the weight of years spun in their shared gaze. Secrets swirled like the steam rising from the pot. Could that spice lead to something more than just a meal? What had it awakened? I felt a frisson of dread. And just like that, the floor dropped from beneath me. Who was this person? What had happened before? I needed answers, before everything imploded. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air thickened with tension, each breath a challenge against the weight of uncertainty. The stranger's presence seemed to grow, swirling like a dark cloud as I sought refuge behind the countertop. Grandma, my fierce protector, stood her ground, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her. "What do you mean, I owe you?" she asked, her voice a facade of strength. I could see how the layers of confidence she wore were fraying, revealing the vulnerability beneath. The stranger's lips turned upward in a cynical smile, one that sent shards of ice racing down my spine. "Years of silence, Evelyn. You can't hide forever. The truth has a way of demanding its due," they whispered, words laced with bitterness. Each syllable felt like a dagger aimed straight at Grandma's heart. I wanted to scream, to intervene, but the paralyzing fear glued my feet to the floor. "Enough," Grandma said, her composure faltering, but a flicker of defiance ignited her eyes. "You shouldn't have come. Not now, not here." She stood taller, the faint shadow of the woman I knew so well emerging. Yet, doubt flickered in the depths of her gaze, a struggle raged beneath her surface. What truth was she hiding? What darkness had risen from her past? The soup on the stove continued to bubble, unaware of the emotional tempest swirling before it. The magic of that spice hung in the balance, overshadowed by the urge to shield our family from whatever storm brewed outside that door. In that moment, something shifted. The stranger pressed forward, their voice dripped with a mournful nostalgia. You think you can just move on, start fresh? Think of what you gave up. Your decisions, your actions. The words dripped from their lips, heavy with history. Tears brimmed in Grandma's eyes, a depth of regret that I had never seen before. My heart, already an uneasy drum in my chest, shattered at the sight. If I tried to reach out, to comfort her, would it only amplify the tension? I fought against the urge, terrified of the unknown consequences. Just as despair threatened to overtake us entirely, soft rays of hope pierced through the darkness. From behind the stranger, a little girl with tangled hair and wide, innocent eyes peeked into the room. She clutched a frayed teddy bear, its stitching coming undone, a symbol of childhood vulnerability amidst the chaos. The sight drew my gaze, pulling me momentarily away from the looming confrontation. Is everything okay, mister? She lisped, her voice ringing like a bell in the heavy air. The seriousness of the situation broke for a heartbeat, and even the stranger faltered, kneeling to her level. Yes, sweetheart, everything's fine, they replied, though their tone carried an edge, the warmth in their voice struggling to surface. It was a small, fragile flicker of kindness that made my heart ache. The girl's innocence had cracked the facade, if only for a brief instant. I stepped closer, drawn to the child's glow like a moth seeking light. I looked up at Grandma, who had turned her gaze to the girl, a mix of sorrow and longing flashing across her features. This was a reminder of what was at stake, not just the secrets between the stranger and her, but the safety of our family, and the warmth we had created around our kitchen table. But just as hope began to blossom, the air changed again. The stranger stood tall, casting aside the momentary softness as they rose back to their full height, eyes darkening. Evelyn, don't forget that I know the truth about the spice. It's not just for soup, is it? It's a key to everything you buried. My breath hitched, and I felt the walls close around me. The realization that Grandma's spice, her magic, was entangled with secrets left unresolved. What could that mean? And had I unwittingly crossed a threshold into a realm far beyond culinary delights? As the gravity of the situation settled, Grandma glanced at me, an unspoken resolve in her eyes that terrified and inspired me in equal measure. Run to the kitchen, she whispered, her words urgent yet calm. Keep the soup safe. I moved as if drawn by an unseen force, but my heart raced, a drumbeat of anxiety and determination igniting within. What lay ahead was uncertain, a blend of danger and discovery. What had I inherited? What legacy did my grandmother truly protect? The stranger began to advance towards Grandma, their intentions cloaked in shadows, but in that moment, I realized that the path we walked from her kitchen would lead us somewhere darker than I had ever imagined. The door slammed shut behind me, sealing off the chaos, but what I left behind loomed large, an amalgam of love, regret, and awakening truths. And in the depths of my heart, a voice whispered a question that would haunt the corners of my mind. What would happen when the spice and its secrets finally collided with our world? The kitchen felt suffocating, the comforting scent of simmering soup overpowered by the dark specter of confrontation lingering in the air. My hands gripped the pot handle, knuckles turning white as I stared into the bubbling abyss, the once vibrant ingredients now an unsettling reminder of the crumbling world around us. What had started as dinner had morphed into a stage for secrets and truths that had long been tucked away, like dusty memories hidden in the darkest corners of the attic. Everything will be okay, I whispered to myself, but my heart was a heavy anchor, dragging at my resolve. All I wanted was for Grandma to soften their hardened heart, to unlock the warmth that resided within her and reclaim our peaceful lives. Yet a shiver crept up my spine as the stranger's words echoed in my mind, words teasing out threads of past entwined with my present. I fought back the lump in my throat as I poured the soup into a bowl, my eyes darting toward the hallway where I had last seen Grandma. From the shadows, I heard half-voiced whispers. You have no idea what you are doing, Evelyn. Dive any deeper, and you will drown. It was clear the tide was shifting, and I was caught in its pull. In that moment, Diane, the little girl with the frayed teddy bear, wandered into the kitchen, her expression both curious and slightly puzzled. She peeked up at me with those wide, innocent eyes, and something significant shifted within me, a flicker of warmth sparking against the chilling unease. "Mister, why aren't you eating?" she asked, pointing to the steaming bowl. The earnestness and simplicity of her question dissolved some of the tension entwined around my heart. As if awakening from a daydream, I forced a smile and replied, "I'm just waiting for someone special to share it with me. You know, family is the best company." Diane beamed, her youthful spirit unhindered by the tempest raging outside that kitchen door. "You're right. Food tastes better with family," she exclaimed, as if sharing a secret only us children knew. That simple, poignant joy stirred in my heart, momentarily dispelling the darkness. Whether by instinct or fate, she approached the counter, reaching out to touch the soup's surface. "Can I take a taste?" she ventured, and without thinking, I nodded, scooping a small spoonful and handing it to her. She brought it to her lips, savoring the warmth that clung to her tongue, and for a brief moment, we shared something honest amidst the discord, the pure delight of simple flavors. Yet just as the light seemed to expand, the front door swung open, and Grandma emerged from the shadows, her face slightly paler than before. The confrontation had only intensified the shadows in her eyes. She took a breath, steadying herself, and I saw the determination coursing through her once more, but now tinged with something darker, a vulnerability that I hadn't noticed before. "What did you say to her?" The stranger's voice slithered through the air, infused with a venomous curiosity as they moved closer. "Evelyn might not remember what we left behind, but I do." "No," I interjected, adrenaline throbbing in my veins. "You have no right to scare her." I felt the words slip out before I could stop them, bold despite the trembling in my voice. Empowered by the innocent gaze of Diane, I couldn't allow fear to keep my tongue tied, but the stranger's eyes flicked to mine, a cold satisfaction snaking around its depths. "Ah, the child. She has no idea what's at stake, does she?" There was a dangerous edge to their tone, a wicked gleam as they leaned forward, narrowing the space between us. "Evelyn's secrets could ruin everything, but she holds the key to protecting more than just herself." Grandma's breaths came fast and shallow, and I could see matters were growing precariously unsteady. "Enough," she cried, her voice tearing through the tension like a bolt of lightning. "Leave her out of this." I watched as Grandma stepped forward, her protective instincts fully ignited. "I will take full responsibility for the choices I made. But don't try to drag her into my past." For the first time, the stranger flinched, and I sensed the tide churn once again. Their facade cracked. Suddenly, Grandma raised her voice even higher, recalling a fierce strength I had only glimpsed in quiet moments. "There are things you don't understand. Things you think I have buried, but you know nothing about me, about the source, about the spice." The revelation hit hard, hanging thick in the air like dense fog. It was the first time she had referred to the spice, our family legacy, in such a charged manner. What secrets lay dormant within the flavors that defined our meals and memories? What had been hidden beneath the taste of every careful recipe, every passed-down morsel of love? Diane stood silent, wide-eyed, taking in the sudden heaviness of the battle that raged around her innocent world. And suddenly, like a spark igniting dry kindling, whispers crept in, the warning of fading trust, of looming shadows pulling at the edges of our fragile family portrait. "See." The stranger grinned, a chilling flash of triumph. "The truth has a way of surfacing, just when you think it's been buried forever." The atmosphere thickened as I realized the role I had unwittingly played in this unraveling tale of hurt and accountability. I was grounded in the present, but what if my actions triggered the upheaval of our past? And just when clarity seemed to know no bounds, a startling sound broke through the tension, the quick rattle of the door behind Grandma, followed by a loud thump. My blood ran cold as the reality of the situation expanded outward, sending shards of fear into the very core of our being. "Quick! Someone's coming!" I screamed, instinctively reaching for Grandma's hand, but the unknown encroached upon us with terrifying urgency. As the door creaked open wider, shadows moved like phantoms on the threshold, and in that moment, I understood that the truth was not just waiting to surface, it was beginning to chase us down. The air grew dense, the impending footsteps reverberating like distant thunder, shaking the ground beneath me. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from a potent blend of confusion and urgency. Diane squeezed my hand tight, her eyes wide as she took in the unfolding mystery, oblivious to the menace that lurked beyond the doorway. "Evelyn, Diane, get behind me," Grandma ordered, her tone no longer laced with uncertainty. It was a command grounded in resolve, an instinct to protect. I could only nod, my body instinctively lining up behind her like a soldier shielded by the valor of a commanding officer. As I pressed close to Grandma, a knot of dread tightened in my stomach. My thoughts flitted between the stranger's cryptic threats, Grandma's fierce proclamations, and uneasy glimpses of the secrets long buried in our family's history. They felt entwined, a knot pulling tighter with each rhythmic knock against the door. What did the stranger know? And why did their presence feel as though it heralded something catastrophic, something transformational? The door groaned under the pressure of insistent hands, and before we could prepare ourselves for the shock of revelation, it burst open to reveal a silhouette, tall, imposing, and draped in shadows. The figure stepped into the light, and I struggled to catch a glimpse of their face. There, in the muted glow of the kitchen, stood none other than my estranged mother, Chloe. "Mom!" I breathed, the word escaping my lips as if conjuring her from the very fabric of my memories. I hadn't seen her since that fateful night when she had left, taking her laughter and her light with her. But now, as she stood before us, I recognized that the warmth had faded from her presence, replaced by a cold air of uncertainty. Chloe's eyes darted from me to Grandma, a clash of emotions swirling beneath the surface, a storm reflecting years of silence and missed opportunities. "I'm here to talk. To explain," she stated, each word weighed down by the gravity of our shared history. "You think this is the time for explanations?" Grandma growled, stepping slightly forward, the defiance radiating from her like a fortress against the storm that had just crashed into our lives. "You walked away. Just like that. Now you waltz back in with promises of explanations." Her voice trembled with the force of anger, heartbreak, and betrayal. "I regret leaving, Mom," Chloe continued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I thought distancing myself would spare you from the burden of my failures, but it only led to my own emptiness." Emotions clawed at me as Chloe's words sunk in, injecting all the unresolved tension that had plagued my childhood. There was vulnerability in her tone, but it clashed irreconcilably with the chaos she had just walked into. Why had she come back now, when our lives felt already under siege? Regret doesn't change the past. Grandma roared, her voice raw and unyielding. "You can't just come back and expect everything to fall in place." "Maybe not," Chloe said, her voice softening, almost pleading. "But I might just be able to help you understand. Help Evelyn." Her gaze met mine, and I could see a flicker of the love I had always yearned for, the kind that could wrap around me like a blanket, keeping me safe from the dangers that circled ever closer. "There's something you don't know, Evelyn. Something about the spice, the legacy." The word hung in the air like a potent incantation. Legacy. The notion stirred something deep within me, awakening dormant memories of the clanking pots, of Grandma's fierce pride while she concocted age-old recipes. My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Before Chloe could respond, the stranger threw back their head, laughter pouring forth like a dark tide. "Oh, this is rich. The curse of truth is always more intoxicating than an innocent spice." "Shut up," I shouted in defiance, a rush of protective energy taking over. "You're not a part of this." "Ah, but aren't I?" The gleam in their eye spoke volumes. "A culinarily cursed legacy indeed, all too entwined with your sweet grandmother's secret. While you all sit, entangled in each other's emotional webs, I've come to collect what is rightfully mine." My body tensed. What could they possibly mean? There was a weighty silence now, heavy in anticipation, as Grandma and Chloe exchanged a grave look. The tension that had descended felt like a curtain ready to drop and reveal a scene too unsettling to comprehend. I glared at the stranger. "You can't take anything from us. We won't let you." But with each moment that passed, a gnawing anxiety began to settle in my chest, warning me that the past and the present were crashing into one another with a ferocity I had never imagined. Then, suddenly, without warning, the kitchen lights flickered, and the shadows clawed at reality, their fearful grip crawling through my veins. It was as though the walls themselves were closing in, wrapping us in a suffocating embrace. "Something's about to change," Chloe murmured, her eyes fixated on Grandma as if some silent pact was forming, but she never finished her thought. The faint sound of whispering filled the air again, this time mingled with the soft rustling of shadows drawing near. Can secrets come back home? Or do they perpetuate chaos? And just like that, the room seemed to spin, truth colliding with revelation, and the battle for our family's legacy crested a new wave of danger. I felt a raw pulse of fear surge within me. The world began to tilt on its axis, straining under the weight of history left unspoken. Would we be strong enough to confront it, or was the light of hope simply an illusion left crumbling in the wake of the storm? The shadows gut-punched their way across the room, and the air crackled with an electric tension as the stranger stepped closer, that sinister smile growing wider, as if relishing the chaos he had stirred. Chloe glanced at me, her eyes flickering with emotions I struggled to decipher. Was it fear, longing, or a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, she could mend the fissures torn into our lives? Listen, Chloe began, her voice steadying despite the turmoil surrounding us. The spice, it isn't just a recipe. It's emblematic of our family's history, the heart of our culinary insecurity and our burdens. What are you talking about? I probed, imploring her to share more, to unravel the threads that had obscured our history. You've dropped a bombshell on us, and I need to know more. What's this curse you're talking about? But before Chloe could respond, the intruder interjected, their laughter seeping into my bones, chilling me further. Ah, history. The sweetest deceit that sweetens an unsavory outcome. You really don't grasp the tangled web you're caught in, do you? You think your family has secrets. You have no idea the mess you're about to uncover. Enough. Grandma's voice reverberated through the room, her defiance cutting through the tension like a knife. You're not going to twist this family's legacy into something vile and twisted. Her stance radiated fierce guardianship, and, for an instant, I felt emboldened to join her. Perhaps you'll think differently once the truth unfolds. The spice ties you to your potential, Evelyn. It's more than a culinary ingredient, it's a vessel of transformation, and conveniently, yours is filled with misfortune. The stranger leaned in, their eyes gleaming. Confusion washed over me, the way Grandma's stories often had when I was younger, so rich yet so unexplained. What do you mean? I demanded, my heart racing. What's my potential? Why do you think I have anything to do with any of this? The figure straightened, tilting their head as if considering my worth. Every family has a keeper. Someone destined to unlock the power of their inheritance. Too long has this one been hidden, shrouded in shadows. Grandma squeezed my hand tighter, but I stole a glance at Chloe, who wore a mask of shame, the kind that fused a lifetime of regret into a single expression. Mom, is that true? Am I supposed to be something? Evelyn, listen to me, Chloe said, urgency breaking through her usually measured tone. The spice grants gifts, but it also carries burdens. It holds stories that have intertwined with loss and sadness. I didn't want to believe that it chose you, but I seek to protect you from its weight. I don't want to be anybody's savior. I can't carry your baggage, I retorted, feeling suffocated by expectations and responsibilities I never asked for. But Chloe's eyes shone with a gentle understanding that began to dissolve some of my anger. It's not about being a savior. It's about embracing the truth we've hidden for so long. Strength doesn't come from denying our heritage, it comes from acknowledging it, from understanding what we've survived. Just then, the stranger's laughter echoed through the room, invasive and haunting. How poetic. A family mired in estrangement now clinging to hope. But be careful, the darker aspects of this legacy have consequences, especially when awakened. The world shifts around truth, and it's not always kind. I felt the heaviness settle on my shoulders, the weight of some unseen specter overshadowing our reunion. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? I accused the stranger, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Indeed, they replied, unperturbed. The real shattering hasn't even begun. Soon, precious Evelyn, your heart will face the ultimate test, a decision that, once made, cannot be undone. My heart lurched violently. I sensed a tipping point, a looming decision that would force my hand, an unveiling that might take everything I cherished. The stranger turned ominously, gleefully almost, as if reveling in our despair. Leave, Grandma commanded, curling protectively around me. But the intruder merely laughed before announcing, "This is only the beginning. The curse will awaken with the next full moon. The spice will be the ignition, and I'll be waiting." As they stepped back into the shadows from which they came, the room felt colder, a chill seeping into our bones. Silence swallowed us whole as the door creaked shut behind them. The aftermath of confrontation left a dulled, unmistakable ache where warmth once blossomed. I felt raw, exposed as uncertainty seeped into our fragile hope. "Evelyn," Chloe whispered, stepping toward me, her urgency subdued by the heaviness of revelation. "We'll figure this out together. But you need to understand, secrets and truths rarely mix without chaos." "Do you really think we can?" I asked, my voice cracking under the weight of everything unspoken. Her gaze lingered, desperation woven through her expression. "I promise, I will help you carry this. Our past, our legacy is messy, but it doesn't have to define us." And just like that, I was swept up in an emotional flood of uncertainty, hope, and the tremors of impending doom. Just when I thought I might grasp some sense of control, the ground underneath began to feel ever so slightly unstable. In that moment, a cascade of memories washed through me of vibrant dinners and Grandma's comforting smile, all juxtaposed with the darkness creeping around the edge of my heart. The weight of it all made it hard to breathe. As I locked eyes with Chloe, her expression mirrored my own doubt mingling with the desperate yearning to break free. But before we could find solace in our unsteady bond, the lights flickered again, and the kitchen plunged into an almost suffocating darkness. It was there, amid these shadows that held our fears, that I felt a strange stirring within me, a latent energy that whispered that my story was only beginning. And with that, I realized that the next moon would beckon not just change, but a reckoning we all needed to face. In that surreal stillness, just before the lights regained their glow, I felt the stirrings of something dangerous lurking like a haunting reminder that the truth would forcefully rise. And I braced myself, for I knew the path ahead lay strewn with equal parts revelation and desperation. Who would we become when nothing remained hidden? The air crackled even after the door clicked shut, leaving us in the oppressive silence that followed the intruder's departure. I could still feel the echoes of their taunts resonating within the walls, taunting me with a gnawing fear of the impending darkness. My heart raced, entwined with confusion and apprehension, as shadows danced at the edges of my mind. Chloe stepped closer, her expression strained yet resolute. "Evelyn, we have to be proactive. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise I'm going to help you through it," she said, her voice threaded with both reassurance and urgency. "Help? How? With what? This curse? Secrets?" I slammed my fists against the kitchen counter, the sound startling both of us. "All I feel right now is the weight of my mother's mistakes and my grandmother's expectations pressing against me. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do." "I know you're scared, sweetheart, but you are not alone in this," she said, reaching out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear, reminding me of the small moments that often felt like home. "You're stronger than you think, and we will find a way to break this cycle." With her words lingering in the air, I focused on my breathing, searching for that flickering flame of hope buried beneath layers of anxiety. But it was hard to see through the fog of uncertainty that clouded my mind. What if the next full moon really brings calamity? What if I can't handle it? What if my voice broke, and tears threatened to spill over? Chloe wrapped her arms around me, and as I sought comfort in her embrace, I could feel the warmth radiating from her to hold on when darkness beckoned. It reminded me of all those times I felt lost, swirling in a storm of emotions, both ancestral and personal. "For every hardship, we can also find light," she whispered softly. "Like the light from the kitchen window when Grandma was cooking?" I asked, burying my face deeper into the warmth of her shoulder. She chuckled lightly at the memory, and for a flickering moment, I felt an ember of safety dance within my shaking chest. Food was the common thread that tied us together, the spice that seasoned our conversations, our lives. "Exactly," she said, pulling back just enough to cup my face in her hands. "We'll face this together, we'll face whatever is waiting for us. Remember, we are more than our burdens, we are built on the love of shared meals, the stories wrapped in seasoning. There's magic in those moments we had." But as I gazed into her determined eyes, I couldn't shake the ominous energy lingering in the air, an impending sense of chaos looming just out of reach. If the spice reveals gifts, what if we are also opening doors we cannot close? Chloe's expression faltered for a moment, a sliver of doubt cracking her unwavering facade. That's the risk, isn't it? But what if by uncovering the truth, we finally set our family free? There's always a chance for healing, Evelyn. Not every path is as grim as it seems. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping as if revealing a closely guarded secret. When I was your age, I had my own battles. There were shadows that haunted my dreams, nice threats disguised as family quirks. I chose to ignore them and believed they would pass, but they just festered and grew. 4 generations. I finished her thought softly, feeling the weight of history descending upon us both. So, what did you do? I didn't have the strength to confront my own heritage then. But you do. I see it within you. You're not bound to repeat the same mistakes. You can rewrite the narrative, she encouraged, urging me to meet her gaze. Just as those words began to sink in, thoughts of courage and solidarity swirling, I was surprised by a sudden knock at the door. It echoed within the stillness of the house, drawing all eyes. A sharp chill slipped like a secret through the crevices of my spirit. Who could it be at this hour? Grandma's voice rose, edged with skepticism. She moved to the door, her expression guarded, as if she, too, sensed the weight of what had just passed. Chloe and I exchanged a quizzical glance, hearts thundering in tandem. Should I answer? I whispered, not sure I wanted any more surprises. Maybe it's an ally, Chloe suggested, but even she could hear the shaky uncertainty in her own voice. Grandma hesitated, the air thickening with suspense before she met my eyes, a silent challenge lurking within her gaze, the unspoken question lingering. Will you face this, too? A claim on our shared history rested upon my heart like a beacon inviting me forth. When Grandma finally opened the door, a beam of moonlight flooded the kitchen, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. I squinted, pulse quickening as I sensed a visceral connection to the stranger's darkness. I hope I'm not too late, the newcomer said, their voice laced with an ache of familiarity. I came as quickly as I could when I heard about the spice. There's something you all need to know, something important that can shift the tides. The room froze, dread mingling with a flicker of hope. My heart raced, half daring to believe in a sign and half fearing it would be another blow. What could this stranger illuminate, and would I dare to open myself to this new possibility? Please, step inside, Grandma finally said, glancing back at us with an expression that seemed to reveal a depth I hadn't yet considered. As the door creaked wider, I braced myself not just for the truths ahead, but for the vast unknown ahead of me. I could feel the tendrils of fate tightening, and within me stirred the fear that our lives were clinging to the edge of a precipice, ready to take the plunge. Just then, an unshakable certainty coursed through me. I had only glimpsed the beginning of my own story, but the path was bound to twist further yet. The moment the stranger stepped into our kitchen, I felt a ripple of energy wash over me, as if their very presence melded with the shadows that clung to the walls. My grandmother, usually a fortress of stoicism, shifted uncomfortably. The tension thickened as the figure's features emerged from the darkness, revealing a face etched with sorrow and urgency. I'm Aria, they introduced, their voice low, barely above a whisper despite the gravity of the moment. There's a legacy tied to that spice, not just power, but a curse that binds your family, Evelyn. Grandma's eyes narrowed, the lines on her face deepening as the weight of recognition dawned upon her. You've been talking to the old witches at the market again, haven't you? She replied sharply, her tone a mix of disappointment and protectiveness. You can't trust everything they say. I didn't come here to cause trouble, Aria countered, unyielding. I came to help break the cycle for you, before it's too late. Help? Help how? I asked, tone laced with skepticism. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, each beat resonating with the fear that my own heritage held darker secrets than I had ever imagined. The spice you drew from the one that ignites memories, love, and perhaps too much longing was stolen. It belongs to a force neither you nor your family truly understands, Aria explained, urgency sharpening their words. It was infused with intentions that were lost long ago. So, while it might offer moments of sweet nostalgia, it also brings with it turmoil, painful truths waiting to be uncovered. Then why would anyone use it? I felt the weight of every word hang in the air, pressing down like a leaden blanket. Because love and longing can also be dreams, they replied, a sadness lingering in their eyes as if their own heart had been crushed by familiar tales. They're often more manageable than the truths we bury beneath our pride and pain. Chloe took a step closer, her hand grazing mine, a subtle acknowledgement of the shared weight we bore. What do you mean lost intentions? She asked gently, her curiosity outweighing her fear. Arya hesitated, searching for the right words. It's complex. There was a pact made long ago in your family, a pact twisted by betrayal and regret. That spice can bring warmth but can also awaken the soul's longing for resolution. With the next full moon approaching, you risk unleashing those restless spirits again. The mention of the full moon stirred a familiar flutter of dread in my chest. What do you mean by restless spirits? Your lineage is caught between worlds. In seeking what was lost, you might attract the very darkness your grandmother fought to shield you from. Arya shifted, the shadows pooling like ink around their feet. The only way to truly confront this is to navigate your family's history. Together. You need to uncover what really happened. What do we have to lose? Grandma's voice cut through, unexpectedly fierce. You come here with your riddles, but I've fought to protect my family for decades. You can't just waltz in and expect us to trust you. Before Arya could respond, I felt the wobbly truth inside me build like a wave. But maybe we owe it to ourselves to seek the truth, I said, surprising even myself. If the spice has awakened something in us, perhaps we need to see what else it could reveal. Maybe breaking a cycle means camping on the edge of our fears. Chloe squeezed my hand tightly, steadying the storm of thoughts that threatened to sweep me away. With a nod of encouragement from her, I felt a surge of determination burn bright, igniting that flicker of hope I desperately clung to. Why should we trust you? Grandma's defenses remained high, masking a vulnerability beneath her stoic exterior. I have my own reason, Arya said, voice low but filled with conviction. My family shares a past with yours, a bond woven through the years. I want to help you understand and perhaps set things right. My eyes widened in disbelief, the pieces of this intricate puzzle starting to swirl together. How could you know about us? Without answering, Arya lowered their head, revealing a delicate bracelet wrapped around their wrist, a charm that looked smooth and dark against their skin, identical to the one Grandma wore. My heart stopped short. The same elite design meant our fates were intertwined more than I could fathom. Then, another knock thundered at the door, nearly making me jump. Not again, Chloe murmured, fear creeping back into her voice. As Grandma moved to answer, I could feel the air shift. Expectations fluttered in the atmosphere like trapped fireflies, the ones that often heralded pivotal change. But when she swung the door open, we were met not by another stranger but a familiar face, a young woman whose presence sent shockwaves through my body. Evelyn. She gasped, breathless with urgency. I need to talk to you about why the spice is calling to you, why it needs to be used now. In that pivotal moment, the world around me blurred. I stood frozen, dread mixing with an insatiable curiosity. I clutched Chloe's hand tighter, as layers of my reality began to unravel at the seams, while shadows whispered ominous truths that might finally lead to the answers we sought or drag us deeper into the void. Evelyn. Her voice broke through the thick atmosphere of our kitchen, carrying an urgency that was both thrilling and terrifying. The young woman at the door had wild, fluttering hair and wide, expressive eyes that seemed as if they contained centuries of knowledge. Behind her, night cast its shadow, an ominous reminder that the full moon was drawing ever closer. Who are you? I asked, my heart racing. The warmth of hope that had ignited moments ago began to flicker amid the fear swirling within me. Callie, she breathed, stepping inside without invitation, as if the gravity of her presence demanded no less. I needed to find you before it was too late. With one semblance of a glance from Arya, I sensed the bubbling anxiety that threatened to boil over. Grandma stood between us, posture rigid and protective, her eyes fixated on the intruder. I don't appreciate uninvited guests, Grandma warned, voice steady yet edged with a protective ferocity. Especially ones with secrets. They're not secrets, Callie countered, her voice trembling but resolute. They're truths that lie hidden within your family's history. The spice, it's not just a calling, it's a key. A key to unlock what has been sleeping in your blood for generations. What do you know about it? I found my voice as adrenaline surged, shaking off the initial shock of her arrival. Could this be the missing link we needed? Everything, she replied, lowering her gaze to where her fingers fidgeted against each other, the nerves shimmering beneath her skin. The spice was once a part of a covenant designed to bring together the fragments of lost love and pain left behind by the women in your bloodline. And now, it's summoning you to join the fight. Fight? What fight? Chloe asked, shifting closer to me. Fight against what? In the darkness, Callie said, her eyes darting toward the kitchen window where the night loomed heavy, their essay presence bound to the spice. It hungers to be unleashed, to reclaim what was taken. If you use it without understanding, that presence will break free, bringing chaos instead of the warmth you seek. No, Grandma interrupted, a jolt of anger coursing through her body. We've survived too long by staying steadfast against these forces. I will not let you sway my granddaughter with fears. Callie's sharp inhale echoed in the stillness of the room, thick with tension. It's not fear, it's clarity, she replied, her voice rising. Do you honestly think you can ignore the warning signs? The way the past binds itself to the present. You've kept it suppressed long enough, and now it's calling for reckoning. A heartbeat pulsed between us, a moment where worlds collided. I became acutely aware of the choices I faced, standing at the crossroads of safety and revelation. What do you mean calling? I pressed, searching Callie's face for a hint of truth that might illuminate the shadowy corners of our legacy. It means, she said, her voice trembling, you were chosen, Evelyn. You must be prepared to dive into the history that has hunted your family, to confront the regrets that lie buried. Chosen. The word hung in the air like a lightning bolt, exposing the churning fears in my heart. Chosen for what? For the return of lost souls, Callie asserted. For the chance to mend what is broken. But it will require every ounce of bravery you possess to face it. The spirits that have drifted across the line between worlds will seek you. You've already awoken them. Every word Callie spoke resonated deep within me, the weight of destiny pressed against my chest, wrestling with my instinct to protect the fragile balance I held with Grandma and Chloe. And if I refuse? You risk losing more than the truth, Arya intervened, their voice a steady anchor amidst the chaos of decisions spiraling around us. You risk a cycle of pain repeating itself, forcing you to carry its shadows endlessly, perhaps even becoming a vessel for their wrath. The gravity of their combined warnings hung heavily, tilting the scales of my resolve. Memories rushed through my mind, my grandmother's fretful tales of old. Family secrets, whispers of despair tucked away between the linens and furnishings of our home. Deep down, I sensed their truth was inseparable from my feelings towards the spice and what it might bring. Please, Evelyn. You must listen, Callie pleaded, her eyes glistening with sincerity. The full moon brings power, but it also unleashes vulnerability. You can break the cycle, you can mold your family's fate, but it starts with you facing the past and breaking this curse rather than letting it consume you. The weight of their words pressed down upon me until my breath caught in my throat. The urgency surged. I was standing at the edge of something profound, yet I felt the chilling fingers of fear lacing through my resolve. But before I could respond, shadows danced at the edges of my peripheral vision. A sudden chill crept into the kitchen, cold enough to rise the hairs on my arms. The lights flickered, and with it came a low, mournful wail that seemed to echo through time and space, reverberating through the generations. It wrapped itself around us like a shroud, heralding the restless spirits Callie had spoken of. In that moment, as the temperature plunged, every instinct within me screamed to shut it all out, close the door, and return to the safety of ignorance. But the truth was calling louder than ever before. The abyss of our shared past demanded to be acknowledged, announcing its presence in ways I couldn't ignore. And then, as if the very air breathed alive with dread, I found myself staring into the darkened corners of the room, grappling with the thought. What if the revelations awaiting us were not just truths but fates intertwined until they could no longer be separated? Please, Evelyn, You have to make a choice. Callie's voice barely penetrated through the howling breeze that gusted through the kitchen window. With Grandmother's strong presence beside me and Chloe's hand tightly clasped in mine, I felt all eyes on me, poised on the knife's edge of destiny. And in that moment, fate edged closer, teasing elucidation or potential devastation, as I prepared to step forward into the unknown, uncertain and trembling against the shadows that loomed. The decision felt monumental, but a new question lingered at the back of my mind. What if these spirits were not merely vessels of darkness but guides that could finally lead us towards the healing we had long since denied? The walls of our kitchen echoed with curling whispers of the past. I took a deep breath, summoning the last remnants of courage, as the chilling air around us whispered a truth I was terrified to embrace. The atmosphere crackled with unresolved tension, reverberating like the stillness before a storm. I could feel Grandma's protective stance shifting beside me, an anchor in the tempest of decision unraveling before us. Chloe's hand tightened in mine, her warm touch a grounding reminder of why I fought to keep this family together. But in that instant, the weight of expectation loomed larger than I ever anticipated. What choice? I finally managed to whisper, while shadows flickered playfully at the corners of my vision like dancers beckoning me toward the abyss. Callie's eyes flickered with understanding, a bittersweet blend of urgency and sadness. The choice to embrace your past, to confront what lies buried deep within those who came before you, she pressed, her voice becoming a lifeline amidst the chaos. They want to be heard, understood. Their stories are woven through you like the threads of a tapestry you didn't realize you were weaving. I can't, I declared, my voice trembling between magnified anger and fear. What if it's too much? What if I can't handle what they demand? Not all burdens are heavy, Callie replied softly. Some are gifts wrapped in layers of pain, waiting for the courage of the next generation to untangle them. Her words ignited a flicker within me, a small glint of possibility amidst the raw uncertainty. Just then, a sharp creak echoed from the other side of the kitchen. A momentary silence enveloped the room, heavy and foreboding. It felt as though the very walls had paused, holding their collective breath in anticipation. There, behind Grandmother, painted on the faded wallpaper, was a shadow too distinct to ignore, a figure, barely visible, but undeniably present. Do you see it? I breathed, all thoughts of bravado fleeing me in an instant. Grandma turned, her expression morphing into one of recognition and fear. I shouldn't have brushed it aside, she murmured, her voice thick with a sudden remorse. The signs, they've always been there. A soft wind swept through again, this time carrying with it the faint scent of thyme, sage hints of spices that had marked many family dinners. As if pulled by invisible strings, our gazes turned collectively toward the shadow that writhed just beyond reach, muttering secrets long forgotten, tales wrapped in longing. Do not fear, Callie said, stepping forward with purpose, drawing nearer to the darkened figure. It quivered as if caught between our realms, yearning for connection. They just want you to listen. Instinctively, I stepped back, the innate fear closing around my chest like a vice. But something inside me stirred, perhaps it was the memories of Grandma's stories that stirred beneath my skin like living roots, intertwining our pains and aspirations. What if we can start this healing together? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper now. Chloe, ever the optimistic soul, squeezed my hand tighter. Think of everything we've fought through for this family, Evie. Maybe this is just the next chapter in our story. We can handle it together. Grandma's eyes glistened, a glint of both desperation and hope flashing across her face. It has always been about us. About those who believed in our story. The haunted figure flickered once more, pulling me deeper into its embodiment. It was demanding more than my attention. It sought my acknowledgement, my understanding. It was an echo of ancient anguish, pleading to be set free, an unknown ancestor yearning for a voice. But as I stepped closer, ready to confront whatever might be revealed, another gust of wind rattled through the kitchen, dousing the overhead lights momentarily. I stumbled back, my heart racing as a different type of shadow slipped past the kitchen window, entwined in the darkness outside. More are coming, Callie warned, her own vulnerability laid bare. The ones who faced their reckoning and those still searching for it. It's unraveling faster than I anticipated. Then we have to prepare, I proclaimed, my heart racing with a new resolve. We have to learn what they want, how to mend the bonds frayed by time. No. Grandma interjected, her voice a trembling mixture of authority and fear. We cannot open that door. Once we start, we cannot control what comes through. We have to protect you, Evelyn. And just as the air felt like it was thickening, coiling around us, a resonant chime rang out soft and soothing amid the chaos. It began just beyond the kitchen wall, a rhythm echoing through the very bones of our home, a call to something grander, deeper, not only to take part in the ebb and flow but to also embrace the beautiful and terrible legacy awaiting us. I won't be afraid, I said, locking my gaze on Callie, determination coursing through me. If this is my fate, if this is at the heart of what we've been running from, then I'll face these specters. I'll bear witness to their stories, and if they wish to share their burdens, then let us share it together. Evelyn Grandma's voice held a note of resignation, almost as if she recognized that the tide was no longer something she could control. The figure at the wall shimmered, and I could hear the whispers swirl like ink on water, urging me forward, blurring the line between past and present. As my heart quickened, I took a deep breath, striding toward the shadow, the decision to embrace a twisting journey of discovery ready to unfurl beneath my feet. And in this turning point, just as I extended a hand, a loud crash resonated from outside, shattering the fragile tension that had cocooned us. The door leading to the porch slammed open, revealing an undefined chaos beyond, leaving us on the precipice of more than just our family's history. As I turned to face the doorway, a cold rush of wind swept through the room, carrying with it a sense of something powerful, something waiting just out of sight. And in the mix of fear and anticipation, I realized, we were not yet ready for what awaited us. Together, we'd have to face the oncoming torrent, and I was terrified by the thought of what might crash down upon us. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation as I stood on the precipice of our shared history, the weight of generations bearing down on my shoulders. Inside me swirled the remnants of disbelief and a flicker of courage ignited by Chloe's unwavering hand in mine. I was about to step into my family's legacy, an inheritance steeped in sorrow, love, regret, and secrets, all spiraling toward a climax like the final notes of a haunting symphony. Chloe, Grandma, Aria, and Callie surrounded me, some casting wary glances while others clutched their memories like the fragile threads of a well-worn tapestry. Each strand carried the essence of who we were and who we might become, tied by love, but frayed by silence. And in the distance, shadows hovered just beyond the walls, murmuring secrets and fears that begged to be heard. I inhaled deeply, wrapping my fingers around the cool iron of the door's handle, feeling the tremors that passed between us like ripples on a lake. If we're going to do this, if we're going to face whatever is waiting for us, we have to do it now, I declared, my voice steady and resolute against the chaos swirling about us. Evelyn Grandma's voice trembled, but I could see the shift beneath her concern. There was an acceptance, perhaps even a reluctant pride, in her eyes. You don't have to shoulder this burden alone. No. I want to, I reaffirmed, gazing directly into her steely eyes, that fierce protector of my childhood. I want to reclaim our story, Grandma. For all of us. But we need to face it together, no more hiding. A flicker of something warm glimmered beneath Grandma's careful facade, but before she could respond, the shadows at the doorway seemed to pulse, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Callie's presence felt like a lighthouse in the storm as she stepped forward, wrapping her fingers around mine. Then we shall bear witness to their stories together, she promised, her voice steady and calm. The air thickened with anticipation, and with every inhale, I felt the weight of the space around us transform, the boundaries between our world and theirs thinning like gossamer threads. I turned back to the door, my breath hitching again, but this time bolstered by conviction. As I pushed it open, it swung wide, revealing the night beyond, a stillness pregnant with the potential of what was to come. The moon hung low, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated a path before us. Excited whispers danced on the breeze, and with every step I took into the moonlit expanse beyond our kitchen, the world shifted. In that moment, everything felt possible, the light and dark converging in a kaleidoscope of emotions that mimicked my very heartbeat. The shadows in the air began to take shape, morphing and weaving into silhouettes of figures familiar yet haunting, heart-wrenching yet beautiful. They emerged from the darkness, each bearing the stories of those who had come before me, echoes of laughter and wails of sorrow piercing the stillness, intertwining like strands of fate. I felt their longing, their insecurities, all the while sensing their collective hope rested on our shoulders. "Speak to us." A voice erupted from the crowd, raw and tinged with longing, a cry that cut through the fabric of silence we had woven for years. I turned toward it, able to sense the desperation cloaked in hope. "You are the key. Share your truths." I looked back at Chloe and Grandma, who stood beside me, their expressions a mixture of trepidation and love, mirroring both their apprehensions and the bond we shared. "We hear you," I called, a newfound strength flooding through me, igniting my spirit. "Tell us your stories." Suddenly, I felt the warmth of Grandma's hand at my back, like an ember of support igniting my resolve. "We're ready," she said firmly, her voice carrying both the authority of a matriarch and the vulnerability of a mother. "Tell us what we need to learn." The figures shimmering in the moonlight swelled, their words flowing like a cascading river. "You are our echoes. You are the embodiment of our choices, the choices we were too afraid to face. It is time to heal what has remained discordant." An overwhelming surge of emotion washed over me. "We're here," I whispered, my eyes filling with tears, "to understand. To learn from the past, to change our course." Memories flooded the air, days of laughter around the table, moments of yearning cloaked in silence, scars born from choices made long ago. Time twisted and bent, generations became fluid, wrapping around one another like the tendrils of ivy that crept through our lineage. Then, amidst the collective murmurs, I felt it, a warmth surging from the depth of my being, as fragments of my ancestors' stories woven into my own flooded my senses, igniting the spice within me, that very symbol of our heritage and magic. I could sense the power echoing through my veins, a force pulsing with knowledge both ancient and vital. "Forgive us," they whispered, voices quivering like the wind as the stories began to unravel, revealing layers of heartache and redemption. "We acted out of fear, out of love, out of insecurities that clouded our choices, but within you lies the strength of everything we wished we had." My heart shattered, and yet it felt like a catharsis, a release of silence that had hung oppressive over my family for so long. "I forgive you," I found myself saying aloud, the words igniting like tender embers in the night. "I forgive you because you were doing the best you could, just as I will." Emotional ripples surged through the air, a palpable release settling among the figures that surrounded us, their faces illuminated with relief and fleeting joy. "And we forgive ourselves," a chorus resounded, resonating within the depths of our souls as if to unify the strands of regret that had woven so tightly through our lives. As tears flowed freely down my cheeks, I turned back toward my family. Chloe stepped closer, enveloping me in her embrace as I felt Grandma's hand reaching out, tucking a lock of hair behind my ear, a familiar gesture I once took for granted. The cycle of love began to weave through us, stitching together the fragments of our stories once separated by dissonance, and then, amidst the rising tide of emotions, the moon stretched higher in the sky, casting its silvery glow upon us. Time felt suspended, a precious moment of connection and openness, newly forged from the remnants of old scars as the shadows began to retreat. The spirits at the edges of our collective sight began to dissolve, their energies merging into the fabric of the night, leaving behind whispers of healing, echoes of laughter, and the promise of a new dawn. With dawn just over the horizon, changes unfurled, a beautiful emergence of a new essence sewn into the core of who we were as a family. Shadows no longer held us captive, they were transformed into memories that cradled lessons of resilience and interconnectedness. As light broke through the horizon, I understood that this journey wasn't merely an echo of the past, but a beckoning call toward the future. We had ignited the legacy of truth within our family. We had chosen courage over fear, and now, as the first rays of sunlight spilled warmth around us, I stood hand in hand with those I loved, embodying all that we could become, a family bound by love, lessons learned, and futures brightened by the enduring power of connection. "Together," I whispered, the word carrying a weight of newfound understanding into the universe, "we will tell our stories." And as we stepped back into the kitchen, I felt a powerful assurance the past was never merely a burden, it was an eternal song of wisdom awaiting our embrace, leading us towards something profoundly beautiful. A tender smile crept upon my lips, knowing our journey together had only just begun. In the end, love with all of its flavors was the truest spice of all.